Have you two ever dropped something that wasn't, like, just got rid of something that wasn't any good for you?
Something that we tried.
You binned a bit of your career.
Yeah, I have.
So much.
Yeah. Maybe not forever, I don't know. But when we started Good Shape, and I was still making picture books at the same rate as I did before, and then I started writing on Substack, and like my life got busier and busier and busier. Jerry and I had an online shop, so we decided to shut that, because that was the one job. Even though we liked running the shop, it did involve lots of trips round to the post office and wrapping of parcels. And I thought, of all the things I invest my time in, this is probably the thing I enjoy least, or I at least don't enjoy the bit queuing at the post office.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So we dropped that. And I used to do loads of school visits, and lockdown stopped that. So then I thought, well, because I do actually really love the school visits, but it's the journeys to them. Yeah. It takes so long to get there. I love the interaction with the children, and there's nothing to beat reading a story with them and seeing what works and doesn't work. It's brilliant. But there's a hell of a lot of travelling. Schools have hardly any budget, so they barely pay you. So when lockdown stopped that, I then tried to make a virtual school visit, and immediately realised it was a bad idea, because schools have no budget and will only pay you with, do you remember old-fashioned cheques on paper?
Oh,
They'll only pay you like that.
Really?
Yeah, so you couldn't even have a checkout on your website. I tried that. Nobody would go through checkout because they wanted me to invoice the council who would send me a cheque.
So they refused to play game on any automated purchase because bureaucracy doesn't allow.
Yeah, so in the end, and now the school visit is on my website for free, because that's much easier, and I just don't do them. And I do the stuff that's working.
One of my favourite... Oh, whenever you say school visit on your website, my favourite drawing of yours, one of my favourite drawings, are the ones of the little kids jumping around. I mean, if anything... And you had to give it away for free. Those drawings that came out. The
little drawings I did for like the
school
start
visit.
of the films and the school visit. Oh yeah, I love doing that. That's when I first started drawing on Procreate, those drawings. Yeah,
so
also
nice
your
time doing
Smelly
those.
Peggy book basically came from school visits.
School visits have been so amazing. That's why I'm not saying that I just drop them and I'll never go back. Because if I get asked to a special school or somewhere that's easy to get to, or I know something about this is going to be great, I still do them. Like I do the children's book show because they invite hundreds or even maybe thousands of children to one big theatre. Cool. So you see them all in one go. And then you meet every single child on the way out, because you give a book to each child. Aww. And those conversations are gold dust. They're so gorgeous. So it's not that I don't do them all, but I just had to drop it because it's exhausting. You don't get paid enough.
Do you just have to ask Helen to go to one of your schools? If you've got a child who's going to ask her a really bonkers question,
I love those.
Up. She'll do anything for a bonkers question.
I love the bonkers kids in the class. I just
What's
love conversations with little kids. Oh, I don't know, all sorts of things. Once somebody asked me if I was alive, because I said I was an author. Somebody asked me if I had any debt.
A child asked
what's going on in their house? Yeah. Put his question up and said, do you have any credit cards? Do you have any debt?
Consolidate that into one monthly payment.
But mostly it's statements like hand goes up. You say, has anybody got any questions for an author? And hand goes up, I've got a bunk bed. I like ham sandwiches. Do you know what I'm allergic to? No. What's its and walnuts? Oh.
Couldn't that be your next book?
Oh my goodness, that'd be so good.
On children's, the best questions kids have ever asked.
Tanya, I love that idea.
It would be really funny.
I would really like to do that, because kids ask you the craziest questions.
It could be called, have you got any questions? The first one's like, do you know what I'm allergic to?
So good. So good. I remember being on one where it was a book festival. I still do book festivals sometimes, although it's a similar thing. They don't pay anything. It takes a long time to get there. You get there, they've missed you off the schedule, all that malarkey. But the actual meeting with the children is so gorgeous. And I remember once sitting, this little girl started talking to me. So I got down to her level, sat beside this chair, and I put my arm like rested over the side of the chair. And while she was talking to me about what she was going to have for her tea when she got home, and she just got her fingers and started tapping the end of my fingers. It's just like, oh my God, you're so gorgeous. You're so gorgeous.
You've got a tame one. Katie's little girl can be your advisor. And
Yeah, she
quite
threw
a
me
nice
out of the
thing.
house though.
She did, yeah.
She decided it was time for me to leave. Said bye, pulled me out the door, shut the door on me. So yeah, I don't know if that's
do
a
no
go.
wrong.
Peeking around the door to check you've gone.
It was so funny.
She does ask to look at photos of you quite often.
Oh, okay.
She just doesn't like the real you. She just likes the photos.
I wish I was that honest. She'll just be like, "Come on, we'll go home now. It's time to go home now."
Yeah.
Or we'll go to a grandparents' house and she'll be like, "Put the kettle on."
Did she say that?
Yeah, I love it. She's had a cake. She's like, "Okay, can we go home now?"
Oh, the
so
book
good.
ideas are going to come thick and fast.
So good.
now.
Do you know what? I like this idea that we've all brainstormed just now.
The question book.
We've got to make that happen.
And
Yeah.
use those pictures of the kids from the school
Oh,
visit
yeah.
part of your website that
yeah.
are so beautiful. So you binned the school visits reluctantly
Yeah, they're
and
not
sadly.
entirely binned because
Go
I
on
just
pause.
love the actual event. But in terms of it being part of my business and part of my income, no,
That's
I can't.
a whole day off, isn't
You
it?
can't make it work like that.
And they can't pay for a day's travel to go all the way to a school.
Like sometimes they will. I mean, it's good if you get I never know whether to say private or public school, a fee-paying school. They'll pay you more and they'll pay for your travel. And sometimes I've said you need to pay me for 2 days if I'm going to visit for one because it's a lot of work. And they will. And some people ask that school to invite a local non-fee and pay school in as well so that it's
That's
more
Everyone gets
fair for all.
access.
Everybody gets that experience. So yeah, there are situations where I do say yes, but as it being part of the business, how I earn my living, then no. And yeah, the shop we closed that temporarily.
What have you been, Katie?
Well, last year I've just freshly binned in-person events. So in lockdown and everything, it was all online and I loved it. And then after lockdown, people were really like, please be in person. And I was still like, no, it's still virtual. But eventually I got to the point where I was like, oh, fine, I'll do it in person. So this last year, I think I spent like £4,000 on travel. Like, it's insane. And then the amount of delays, the amount of times I got stuck in London, I was just like, it's not worth it. And then I get to the event and they'll put me in the audio visual, like with the AV guys, the lads.
So no one sees
So
you.
they can't even see that I'm there.
I was about to ask, why do they want you to be there in person?
I think it's just like old-fashioned mindset, and also they want the reassurance of seeing my human body in the room.
And
so
then
they
you're
can-
not sending them some AI
Yeah.
generated
Whereas I'm like, we can
drawings.
have a WhatsApp chat, and they'll just be like, I'm here, I'm just waiting in the waiting room, I'm let in, this is all good. And then like, yeah, so as long as there's good internet, it's fine. But I think, this year I've just been really strict. I'm not doing travel to events. I'm doing travel for fun, travel that I want to do, if any. And it feels really good so far. But I was looking at cost and also energy levels, because traveling's really tiring, and then the next day you're tired. It takes like about a week to recover, all that.
And as a mother as well, it's really difficult. You just feel so ill at ease
Exactly.
when they're that little and you're not there for a couple of nights. And
And like, she's fine, but then you feel bad. Like that time I got stuck in London, that was a phrase for like the week. Mummy stuck in London, train not going. Mummy stuck in London. I was like, oh no, I've damaged her emotionally. Like, so it's really good to be strict about that. And part of me did in-person events because I wanted to do as many as possible, because I was trying to scale and everything. And so I felt like if I say yes to in-person, I'll get more yeses from clients, which was true. But now I don't care anymore. I'm just like, I'm back to being fussy and doing less.
better quality of life.
Life's too short.
Yeah.
What about you, Tanya? What have you binned?
Well, my memory's not very good, so I might have binned a lot of things that I just can't remember. But a recent one was someone asked me if I would design a wine label for them. And it was a good friend as well. And she'd asked me 10 years ago to do this. And I was like, oh, brilliant. So we are going to do it. We're going to do your dad's vineyard. And I would love to do a wine label. But then after about a day's thinking, I was like, oh, I remember branding. Back and forwards. And I'm not a professional brand designer, but I love making the imagery and working. I'd love to work with a designer who would manage all the other aspects, and I would just deal with the imagery. But
Can I ask you a really dumb question?
Yeah.
Like, what would be the difference between designing a map for someone and then branding? Is that because you've got to match branding they've already got? What makes a branding project different? You're
designing the logo, basically, and the identity for them from scratch. And it's like trying to dress someone up in clothes. It's so fraught with, it's really subjective. And I think you need to learn to not control the client, but you need to have a process, a very clear process of like, Are you traditional? Are you modern? You know, take them through all those sort of doorways. So you get a feel for this intangible idea that's in their head. So effectively doing a wine label is really branding for the vineyard, unless they've already got a pre-existing main brand. And they're in Portugal, so I just thought, this is going to be really difficult, because the only way it works is to sit with people and lots of images and talk and get a feel for them, because it is really like dressing them up. And I thought, you can't do this. You don't need to do everything. I've always said yes to everything. I'd be like, yeah, I can be a bit of a designer. I can be an illustrator. I can be all sorts of things. What do you want me to do? Design a rug? Anything.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. Now it's like, no, don't do all those things. They are fun to do, but you'll do them at twice the pace of anyone else, because you're exploring it and enjoying the difference, but you're not a specialist. And I keep thinking this year, just focus. Don't be doing everything. Do the things you're good at. And then that saves time to do personal projects instead of trying to do everything. So it was like, oh, goodbye, wine label. I would love to do it, but yeah, it would take too long.
Don't you feel like as well when you say no to something like that, something magical happens, and in the space where you said no, something else good fills it? Because you're you're never not doing anything, are you?
Yeah, you can be left with that worry of, well, what will happen when I drop this thing? But there's always something else comes along.
Well, like when I was lecturing at uni, realised I wasn't really that into it, but the live illustration was getting busier and busier, so I quit my lecturer job. But then lockdown happened and all my jobs of the live illustration were cancelled, and I was like, oh no. But then we started Good Ship at the same sort of time. So
it filled that gap. Sure, and more.
Because I was like, oh, I've just quit a really good job. What an idiot. Like, I really shouldn't have done that, but it turned out to actually be brilliant, because it meant that we had all that time
to think of a new thing. You just kind of need nerves of steel to believe that it will be okay. Something will come along that's better to do, instead of just saying yes to everything. I remember that time you gave me the lift back from Edinburgh, and I said, what have you been doing? You said, I've been painting a moon.
Oh, oh no, I did do that. Yeah, somebody wanted to buy this moon cot it was on Pinterest, but it was going to be $4,000. So instead of that, they hired a joiner to make it, and then it was somebody I'd been to uni with's friend who was doing it, like their boss or something, this rich man, but not rich enough to buy a $4,000 moon. So then he got the joiner to build it, and then I had to drive it back from Edinburgh and paint it yellow and draw a moon face on it. But then realised I'm actually terrible at painting, like practical painting. Oh, God, so there was drips down it, and Cameron had to like sand it down and repaint. Oh, it was an absolute nightmare. But yeah, I would just say yes to anything. I've done everything and anything.
And then you didn't, which is like the same thing as binning that approach to I'll say yes to anything, which I did as well. Just trying to keep time for things that you know you're good at, and you can calculate how long it will take you. Things won't go wrong because this is your specialism. Whereas taking all comers on thinking, well, that'd be fun. I'd like to try a bit of that, and then crying through most of the project because you really didn't know what it entailed. And those general levels of stress, like, oh God, what have I done?
It's annoying because you kind of have to, maybe you don't have to do everything, but I feel like everybody has a time where they do too much and they learn from it, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like it's the only way to get started, really. Yeah. Just doing a bit of everything that seems like you might enjoy it, and then you quickly realise which bits you are and which bits you're not, and drop those bits.
Start shaving it off till you've got 2 or 3 things. I think, illustrators and creatives need at least 2 or 3 different prongs to keep them all the plates going. Like I'd still do the card sales. I'd rather sell in bulk the cards and paper gifts to one supplier than to send to lots of people, because that mailroom thing is just, that's impossible, isn't it? And going to the post office as well.
Yeah, post office trips are not the one.
I love the ladies at our post office though.
I bet
it's almost worth it just for a chat with them.
Yeah, so if you're doing something that's exhausting and not working for you, and you keep thinking, I'm getting £6 an hour for this, when I look at the timesheet, maybe shave off the bits that aren't good for you. And stay with the things that are making you money and making you happy.
Yeah.
That's us. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Hey.
Double clap.